is there someone past or present that you would want on your advisory team?
Cool, that's a great question.
Hey everyone, I am here with Swish, the CEO of TrueFin, somebody I greatly admire. He's on the speaking circuit. He has a book coming out.
October. I know. It's on youth entrepreneurship, how to start a business while you're still in school. But yeah, I'm like really excited to be with Michelle here.
Do you have a title for the book yet?
Yeah, The Young Entrepreneur.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump right into it. You have been advocating LinkedIn
for a while.
For a few years.
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
How old were you when you first started advocating?
18, yeah.
Gary Vaynerchuk in recent weeks
has gone crazy with it.
He's been advocating it. He's been pounding his chest. What makes LinkedIn so attractive today?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's, I think, 3 things. One is vulnerability. You can't really show that level of like insecurity and failure and vulnerability on Instagram. There's a lot of people when they come on Instagram, they're looking for positivity.
Sure.
They're looking to be happy. They're looking for positive stories that uplift them. But on LinkedIn, you really have a scope to talk about failure in a professional setting and meet that with people that can relate to it directly. Number 2 is the organic reach on the platform. I don't even know how the algorithm works entirely, but it works. If you're authentic, if you're engaging in the comments with your community, if you're trying to find ways to collaborate with people, you will see the results of that. And then the final thing is it's basically like Instagram and Facebook 8 years ago. You know, there's so much you can do with the platform. You know, there's a lot that you can do. I did meetups, for example. We're now in over 480 cities that we've hosted LinkedIn locals in. And it started in New York when I started that for the first time with 20 people that came out to a meetup. So that was a span of 2 years. You can really do something new on the platform.
So those were the do's of LinkedIn.
Yeah.
What are the don'ts?
The don'ts, I think, one, don't be overly salesy on LinkedIn. I think it's easy to do that because it's a professional platform. You're like, I want to get customers. I want to close these deals online. What you really should be trying to do is cultivate relationships. And then eventually, if there is a customer that you'd like to close, do it in an offline setting, right? Go and meet them or get on a phone call with them. You're not going to close them in the comment section of a post. Unlikely.
Right.
Number 2, I think, is try as much as possible to be yourself. And that obviously is a very everybody keeps on saying authenticity, but people don't really understand what it means. Being yourself means if I was coming up to you in person, how would I interact with you? So on LinkedIn, the reason I think a lot of people liked me on the platform initially is when I engage with them in the comment section, I'm literally talking to them. Like my periods and my commas are all over the place. I'm not speaking in grammatical sense and whatsoever, but I'm speaking to them as if I'm right there with them. And they can have a conversation with me in the comments, which is really authentic.
Who's doing LinkedIn very well right now? Maybe not the Gary Vee. Maybe the not so familiar.
So for video, Quentin Allums, the guy named Quentin Allums, a good friend of mine, he puts out some of the best videos I've seen. They're short snippets, like minute to 2 minutes. They have subtitles on them, which is really critical as well nowadays because, again, LinkedIn is an international platform. You're going to have people that do speak very well English, but also people that are just coming in and learning English for the first time. And then the final thing that I love about Quentin, he engages with every single comment he gets. And it takes him a while. It's not like he's always on LinkedIn. He has a marketing agency on the side, and obviously there's a crossover between that. But at the same time, even if you commented and 4 days after he replies to you, I, as a consumer of his content, feel very rewarded to like get that comment back. So that's him for video. I think for articles, for any text-based post, it was my initial inspiration, Michaela Alexis. She has over 140,000 followers. She is crushing it. She got laid off from her job, and she got a job through LinkedIn. And she just talks about how to be able to go from basically rock bottom to be able to now like speak around the world on a topic she loves, and pretty much on a topic that changed her life trajectory entirely. So she's very open about talking about everything. You know, recently she talked about how her and her husband had a hard time conceiving a child. Like even going into topics like that and being very vulnerable about it, but still keeping it professional and not entirely personal.
So Quentin, Michaela, we'll tag them up in this so that anybody watching this, recommended by Swish to go connect with them, follow them. What what needs to happen for LinkedIn to siphon some of the attention away from Instagram to get those young professionals focused on a professional platform?
Well, I mean, I don't really want that ever. From my end, when Gary was promoting LinkedIn, I'm like, damn it, everyone figured out the secret now. Like,
I hear that.
More and more people eventually come onto the platform, it saturates it, and I do agree with Gary that marketers ruin everything.
Sure.
So the minute people are like, oh my God, the organic reach is high there, the amount of quantity of content, not quality, but quantity of content is going to drastically increase. But that being said, I think LinkedIn has to do a number of things around live video, and that's their next step. They put out a beta that released a couple of users, about 500 users around the world, and they're incrementally going to be rolling out live video. And if that can catch on, and if the right professionals come on, not only to do live video resumes, which I think would be a really cool thing, but to even take live video to networking events and start doing that all on LinkedIn as a professional platform, that could be really cool.
Do you have an idea on when the live
video
is going to be rolled out?
Yeah, so I've been told that October is when everybody will get it.
Really?
But they're going to incrementally give it out in regions as well. So right now, any of the beta users are all in the United States, next Canada, and then they're going to release it in Europe, which will be pretty neat. Yeah.
All right, fingers crossed that it comes sooner than that. TrueFin, your organization, raised $1 million.
$1 million now.
And I'm sure you're going to use those funds for many great things.
Yep.
One thing that I gravitate toward in building a company is focus on company culture.
Yeah.
What should startups be focused on to build their culture in their early days, whether they have $1 million or not?
Yep. So I think it's pretty straightforward. Find the right people initially. Find those 4 or 5 people you can really set as the foundation of your culture. These aren't just kind people, but these are empathetic people. These are people that will go out of their way to not only sometimes do the right thing, but also care about each other and each other's success. So if you even have one toxic person in the initial team, it can ruin the entire experience. You remember Brian Scudamore, 1-800-GOT-JUNK, fired his first 10 employees because he just wasn't having fun, and it was a toxic environment. He didn't have optimistic people around him. So if you want to set good company culture, it comes down to the initial people, the people that have been with the company the longest. The second thing I think is trying as much as possible not to have a clear chain of command. I think it's very easy for especially young CEOs to be I'm on top and I want everybody in the organization to know that. Right. But if you can make that first 5 to 10 employee experience for them very collaborative, where they feel even if they don't have ownership in the company, they feel like they do, they would go and make this their life's work. That is the greatest thing that you can give company culture. It's having more and more people that come into the company, not thinking this is a stepping stone to the next opportunity, but thinking this is my life's work. And I feel like I'm as part of the process right now as Swish is, which would be really cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe that there is no one-size-fits-all for company culture.
For sure.
You take a company like Netflix, they're high performance, but then you compare them to Zappos. And Zappos, as they say it, they're weird.
Yep.
Right? That's in their
very
core
weird.
values.
Very weird. Yeah.
How do you describe your company culture?
So there's 3 things. 1, basketball. If females or males, everybody on our team loves basketball.
Okay.
We have a mini basketball net in our office now.
I've seen that.
Yep. And
can you throw it down?
I can throw it down.
Yeah. Okay.
But a mini net that's 7 feet probably. The second thing is memes. We're humorous people. Okay. We have a memes group. Now we're 8 people. We still are very active in our memes group. They're sometimes even overly more active than in our work channels. We're really active in the meme group. And we just love having a good laugh with each other, even if we're all in different places. I'm traveling a lot. Our head of sales travels a lot. We'll all be in different places, but we can share a laugh with each other, which is great. Third and final thing, which I think is really important, is we all are social entrepreneurs. Even if you're a person that isn't an entrepreneur per se, you could be an intrapreneur, which is a person that thinks entrepreneurial within a company, but we're all very social oriented. So a lot of what we do isn't just behind trying to make money, it's very purpose driven. We love seeing our clients use our tools, set up really cool fan experiences, and then record that to put out to the world. Because I don't know if you saw Chris Paul or Giannis, both of them had incredible fan moments in the last 2 weeks. Those videos went viral because the emotion behind it was
Chris
incredible.
Paul, did he cross out?
No. Chris Paul had a young kid, a 10-year-old kid, come up to him after the game and just hug his leg and cry.
Oh, no way.
This was a fan of his for a while. Okay. And he signed an autograph and everything like that. And this kid was just melting. I had never seen tears that much come out of a little kid. And then Giannis had a girl that had been drawing paintings of him for the last 4 years. She's like 12 years old.
I saw that.
Right? And she gave her book to him, and he came around and she started crying. Like, that's kind of like the essence of our platform. And I think everybody on our team loves that emotion. They love that feeling.
What's a meme that is making you laugh today that will make you laugh in 2 years?
All the Winnie the Pooh memes. I don't know if you've seen these, but there's like the clean Winnie the Pooh and then like the business Winnie the Pooh. I love those ones.
I've actually come to culture. What do you do when you have hired somebody who you were like total culture fit?
Yep.
Checks all the boxes, but then 3 months later they start going against your culture. How do you manage that?
Yeah, so we've had an instance of that before. We've definitely laid people off, and I think, you know, to not obviously give names or anything, but to give context, we had a remote employee that I thought would fit in really well because they were.
What told you that?
Their job was marketing, performance marketing. They were really smart. They came recommended by 2 advisors of mine too. So I wanted to give them a shot. When we gave them a shot, we realized they were coming onto every team call, but they weren't self-driven. And for them at the time, they were the head of our marketing department, right? It was really, really hard for us not to have somebody that wasn't self-driven in that role because I couldn't babysit their role and also do mine effectively.
Of course.
So the first thing I do is always approach the person. I'm very honest, especially between my co-founder and I too. If I have a problem, I will speak out about it immediately. I hate letting anything like fester, especially resentment, because if you have like resentment against someone else, you don't tell them immediately, it festers and it grows over time. And then that's where complications really start to happen. So the first thing is approaching them. The second thing is giving them a clear expectation of what I want them to do every month. Like for us, every Wednesday, actually, we set weekly deliverables, where as a core team now of 4 people, we will sit together and be like, this is what you have to do this week, this is what you have to do this week, and we'll compare how did the last week go, and be very honest about things we hit, things we didn't hit. That's number 2. And then number 3 is, you know, having to be honest about letting them go. You know, like the person we did let go, still a part of the company because they were with us pretty much from the beginning. But at the same time, you know, if things aren't working and they understand that as well, it's just better to get rid of them early than to keep them on and have them drag the entire process of the company down.
Okay. Yeah. You mentioned you have advisors to the company. Yeah. Is there someone past or present that you would want on your advisory team?
We have a pretty strong advisory team now, but past or present. I think Seth Godin would be great. Seth Godin is one of my favorite marketeers. He wrote The Purple Cow. You should definitely read that book. But he is also the type of person that every time I've gotten in a Skype call with him, he's always taken problems that I had and just simplified them. Like, I feel like these problems are very complex, and I'm rambling on for 5 minutes being like, Seth, I don't know how to get out of this. And he just simplifies it like, what do you want to get done? What is the main issue right now in terms of you being able to get that done? And who do you need to contact for it? Okay. That's it. He distills every big problem I have into very simple, actionable items. And that's what you really want from an advisor. They're not here to babysit you and guide you through. They're here just to clarify situations for you.
How would you describe your leadership style?
Leadership style, I'm quite assertive. I'm definitely very honest. I move very quickly. Okay. So that's something my entire team knows is when I ask them to do something, they never ask, well, when do you want it by? Like, that's just not a question that ever comes up now, because if I ask you to do something, it's likely because I need you to do it ASAP. But I also do like to give a lot of autonomy to people. Like for me, for my co-founder, for our head of sales, for a CMO, CFO, whatever, like I know that the reason they're in their job is because they're the best at what they do. So I am in no position to tell our CFO how to do their job. If they want to work 8 hours and then go and like the next day go to the beach with their girlfriend, as long as they got all their work done, I'm happy with that.
Sure.
But I'm not the type of person that would go in and try to make them work like me. I don't want them to be another me, but at the same time, I do need things done, and I'm quite assertive about that. Okay.
Yeah. For the youthful and the veteran professionals that are wanting to invest in their leadership skill set, where do you recommend people go?
So, for confidence, the subtle art of not giving a fuck. I don't know if I can swear. Yeah. Good. Yeah, I was like, Mark Manson, best book I've read in my life. Like,
really?
Best book.
It's hard to escape the book.
It is indeed.
I've heard, you see it everywhere.
Yep.
and I've heard a lot of recommendations. I should probably invest the time.
That's number 2. There's a paper called The 5 Myths of Great Leadership.
Five myths
of great leadership. I'll send it to you. You can link it.
Yeah.
But that's a great paper. It's also like 10 pages long. Pretty easy to read, and it's really good because it's counterculture. Like a lot of great leadership advice that you'll see on Instagram or you'll see on like just viral content. Like they actually debunk that, and they go very deep into talking about how that's not really the case. So one, for example, is a lot of people say that leaders should eat last. Right? The idea that Simon Sinek put out in his book. There's a really, really cool myth that leaders are the person that they want their entire team to succeed and then they only succeed. But there is actually a counterculture approach, which is a lot of times your team, if they see you as a role model and if they see you already quote unquote eating, they're going to want to work to be like you.
Sure.
So they kind of do stuff like that, and it's really cool because obviously leadership, there's no real like definitive way to become a leader. And yes, there's a science behind it, but there's also not. So you kind of have to figure out what works for you. I've seen leaders that aren't extroverted. Like I've seen leaders that are quiet. They're silent ninjas. Yeah. But at the same time, leadership comes in different forms, and it also is based on how you build your team. Like if your team responds to threats and if they respond to really assertive people, then if you're not that type of person, you probably don't have the right team around you. But if you have a team that's around you that you know will respond to how you work, and if you set a good role model for them, they'll follow, that's good for you as well.
Is leadership born within oneself, or is it developed?
It's developed. It's definitely, obviously there are natural characteristics people can be born with, like confidence, I think, can come naturally. It can also be nurtured at the same time. But at the end of the day, like I've seen leaders that are the people that go out of their way and make their employees' lives hell. Right. Like especially after Steve Jobs passed away, like everyone read their books, everyone read their saw the movie and stuff. Like I saw a lot of people that were entrepreneurs who were like, oh, I gotta be like Steve now. I gotta gotta make my life, the employee's life really miserable because that's how their creativity will spark. But I've also seen CEOs like Brian, for example, they go to these huddles at 10:05, whatever, 10:55 every morning. Yeah. They're in front of the team, they're clapping with their team, they're approachable. And they're like, the people around Brian, I was even talking to them, like they idolize Brian, which is great. That's what I think I would want to be as a CEO.
I was in Vancouver a couple of weeks ago and I filmed an interview with Brian, and we were talking about leadership in a very similar environment as I'm doing with you right now. And one of the things that we talked about is his slogan, it's all about people. And I kind of challenged him on that, and I didn't necessarily need to because I developed my career at his company. But a lot of people can look at that and think that's such a platitude. That's like something, a nice rallying point. Yep. How do you recommend companies go from having platitudes to actually embedding it into the DNA of the company and making it authentic?
Cool. That's a great question. I think number one is not overthinking it. You're not like having those huddles is great, but if Brian didn't have those huddles, it didn't mean that he had crap company culture. Sure. Right? The huddles actually came out of the company culture itself. It wasn't like Brian initially was like, at the start of the company, we're always going to meet at 10:55. It's just the team got to such a size that they needed to build that as another element of their culture. So I think A is not overthinking it. Go along with the ride. Be very responsive to what your employees want. If your employees do not want to have a huddle at 10:55 a.m., but they'd rather do like Skype sessions every week, or they'd rather go and have a client meeting that you come with them on, right? Like stuff like that could be a lot better as well than having a huddle where everybody meets. So one is responding, I think, to what your employees want over time and not overthinking it. The second thing is, as much as possible, like take a look at what works in terms of your company culture and know that if you're at 10 or 15 people, it might not work when you're at 50. Sure. Right? It really might not work when you're at 50. But the big thing that you got to do is you have to inspire the initial 10 to 15 people to be like you when the team was really small, which is they have to go into their divisions and spark their own internal company culture. So the overall company might be doing really great, and they might not be any cross-pollination between sales and marketing, but if each of those individual organisms have great company culture, that is a win in my mind.
I'm going to borrow something from our mutual friend named Jason Gaignard.
Yeah. Who's that?
Gonna get his ass beat just right first. If we were celebrating something a year from today, what are we celebrating?
So I think A would be TrueFan. TrueFan, we're hopefully going to be at around 20 people by the end of the year. That's where we're projected in terms of sales, in terms of hiring. And we're making a lot of really good moves within the cannabis industry, within esports.
Nice.
So it could be really neat to have a big partner come one day and even have us license our project out entirely, which I think is very probable. Onik is my co-founder is incredibly passionate about that space.
Okay.
So he's been willing all those projects on really, really well. The second thing I think would be my mom. My mom has been through the last 2 years of really personal battle, if you will, splitting up with her husband, my father, and we're at the end game now. Avengers coming out, that was a reference to that, but we're at the end game now, and I'm really, really excited to be able to celebrate with her where she doesn't have anything in the back of her mind.
Moms are the best human beings.
They actually are.
My dad is a pretty a lot of brawn and everything, but my mom is 100 times stronger than he is.
Yeah.
Moms are a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
All right, Swish, thank you so much, my brother. Follow Swish. Where can they find you?
LinkedIn, Swish Goswami, SWISH GOSWAMI, or you can hit me up on Instagram as well, very approachable, @GoSwish, GOSWISH.
If you learned something by watching this awesome interview, click the share button, click the like button, and I'll see you next time.